Good Monday morning, everybody. My goodness, a lot of stuff's been going on. I totally unplug on the weekends. I do. And I know I am not the quickest one to get the bait. But some things have got to be discussed. Good morning, Uli girl. Debbie Keenan's here. Diana Howery, love you. Nufflin, love you. All the others, Sharon, I have missed you. Look at that. Tanya Rodriguez, missed you. Kimberly Deaney, Real Rockin' Robin, Wise Old Lady. I think we need a wise old lady around here. We do, because it's a mess. It's a messy mess. Good morning, Joanne. Diva! Wild Man's mom, Kawana. My gosh. Now, if you are not subscribed to the second channel, check it out, because I'm going to be switching from this channel to the other channel for Quentin Simon's justice, and I believe it will happen. There's a lot going on. Delphi starts today. I am not covering that. I stopped a few months ago when the Odinism thing came out. Not in my wheelhouse, okay? It is scary AF. We have Sarah Boone, so I'm trying to figure out how to juggle the different trials and still have our regular conversations. A lot going on. A lot. But right out of the gate, look at Ginger Girl and look at that pretty puppy. That is her avatar. She said there was a lot of nonsense being said last night. A child's DCS report should not be used as a channel money maker, in my opinion. Me too. And the only way, let's just say someone like me would get it, would be if it was given to me by one of the parents. And that is too much nonsense for me. Law enforcement has not said anything about this CPS report. But we already know that Seth has put things out about SA and other things. Again, there's a lot going on. A lot. And I do not get it at all, except for the fact that Sebastian is missing. Sebastian is missing. There are so many theories. He ran away. He met someone on the internet that told him how to get out of the house. Seth left work and took him. I don't know. Katie herself, or Chris and Katie, did something in cahoots. He's somewhere in Alaska being dropped off by the Bower Sox. I don't know. I don't know. But he is missing and has been missing for some time. Good morning, Zach Walker. Let's take a second and tell everyone good morning. And we are not going to talk about OU's humiliating loss to Texas. Horns down. And there it is. Just me said, all I know is that these children need to be found. And someone knows. I understand everybody has their favorite flavor of ice cream. And it seems that people gravitate towards a creator that they like what they say or they agree with what they say. But what it comes right down to is Katie Proudfoot was home. We have no evidence that Chris Proudfoot was there. And I mean none. We have no evidence that Seth left work. We don't know. Some people say, listen, the leaves are changing. They're starting to fall. Maybe then they'll be able to find him. I was watching something really crazy over the weekend. It's a local case where this man lost his exotic pet turtle. True story. I don't know who plays with a turtle. Have no idea. Anyway, so Tulsa Technology College is using heat-seeking drones. And one thing they said is that they can see through all the foliage. And so they're using these drones to find the turtle. Well, if they can see through the foliage, then they can see through the foliage in Tennessee. They can see through it, especially if there's a moving object. That's all I know. Exactly. Mrs. Information, Erica, Seth showed his time card. No one else has shown proof they were at work. Well, we know Katie was at home. We know Katie was at home. Chris checked out of work and was seen on the crane. I don't know that they do time cards where he works. It's like if somebody asked my husband where he was, he doesn't have a time card. He doesn't have one. So let's get to it. This is what Seth said on Court TV. In quotes, Chris and Katie did something to my son. They are using Sumner County to cover it up and to hide themselves from the actual law. I'm not here to argue with Seth or Tony or Bullhorn Betty. I just have a few initials to throw out. TBI and FBI. Because saying that Sumner County is working in cahoots with the Proud Feets and the Bower Sox, or some call them the Stinky Sox, could honestly get him into a little bit of trouble. Because that's an actual accusation. And let me tell you what, if Seth gets his hand swatted in the least way, people are going to lose their friggin' minds. They're going to lose their minds. He says, I still think Sebastian is alive. I believe he is somewhere. Question with that I have. And again, this is just my opinion. Everyone has an opinion. Why is he threatening to spill out these CPS reports? Why is he putting out embarrassing information about Sebastian if he believes he's going to come home and hear it? I mean, I guess he could easily say, well, I had to do that in order to find you. I don't know. He says, but the fact that he was at Proudfoot's house last, there is no evidence that Sebastian ever left the house. But there's no evidence that something happened to him inside the house. Proudfoot is spending more money and time trying to get people to not speak about Sebastian than speaking about Sebastian is questionable. And that is the way he sees it. And that's the way a lot of people see it. Now, here is a question that's brought up in a lot of different groups. It's been asked of me. It's been asked of me. What is the difference between the protective orders that a judge used the law to decipher and uphold versus a cease and desist where you're telling creators not to talk about your son? It appears there was absolutely no struggle in that home. We already know that the dogs didn't hit. There are just too many inconsistencies. And according to Seth's mom, Robin, everyone has been thoroughly questioned, interrogated, the whole 9 yards. So let's go to what happened a couple of days ago. It is crazy. Good morning, Ebony. Now, listen, in my opinion, Seth gets a pass. He gets a free pass. Like Just Me said, he's the only one that is looking for him. I can't get past that. I can't either. And in the beginning, people were accusing Seth of being somehow a part of corruption and a conspiracy. And all of that is just maddening. Totally maddening. Hold on, Britt said we didn't hear anything, Brooks. Well, let's try this again. I don't have anything muted. What's going on? Let's try it again. Tell me if you can hear. Well, that's what happens when you have a live show. Let's try it again. All right, you all see the screen? You see this new anchor, this news anchor with his O face on? Let's see. All right, that's all the way up.
Stepdad of a missing boy just won a legal battle against a YouTuber who's covering that case. This all started when 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers disappeared back in February. A month later, true crime social media influencer known as Bullhorn Betty started posting.
But can you hear? Is all good now? Okay, Kawana said she can hear. Whew. Let's pretend that didn't happen.
Well, the mom and stepdad of a missing boy just won a legal battle against a YouTuber who's covering that case. This all started when 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers disappeared back in February. A month later, true crime social media influencer known as Bullhorn Betty started posting videos about the Sebastian case.
Okay, there is no issue with posting videos or give your opinion of what you think happened, as long as you make it clear it's your opinion. We have theories, we speculate, the whole 9 yards. And let me tell you what, actual journalists have a real bad taste in their mouth for people that create on YouTube or Spotify or Facebook or Twitter, now known as X, or any of that. They have a real bad taste in their mouth. Back to the cease and desist. There are many, 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 many channels. Like I said, I'm trying to be fair here. Many, many, many channels that cast blame straight at the Proud Feeds. They have not sent out a cease and desist. They did get a protective order because they don't want a certain person showing up at work, showing up at the house, showing up at a campsite. They don't want that. The cease and desist orders that have gone out have been to people that aren't fans of Seth. So keep that in mind. I'm not picking on Seth. I'm just saying that's what's going on. Particularly people that talk about the age difference between Katie and Seth. She didn't meet Seth when she was 20 and he was 30. No, she was 12 going on 13. Some people say, well, back in the 1940s, this wasn't uncommon. Hold on. This is 2024. And a grown man does not need to have a relationship with a 12-year-old, 13-year-old unless he's a coach, a teacher, Sunday school teacher. But that's where the cease and desist went. So keep that in mind. And you have to be real careful if you go into some chats, if you really want to chat in there, because they'll block you. They'll block you with a quickness if you bring that up.
Well, in July, Sebastian's mother filed an order of protection against Betty. Then the following month, Betty, whose real name is Andra Griffin, was arrested, and that was for violating that order. So all of that brings us to today, where News 2's Caitlin Quisenberry is outside the courtroom after the judge ruled in favor of another protection order, and this is for Sebastian's stepdad.
In this temporary order of protection obtained by News 2, Christopher Proudfoot claims that Andra Griffin stalked and harassed him and his family. The defense for Griffin argued for the First Amendment rights of the YouTuber.
Well, then talk on your channel. Talk and talk and talk and talk. Don't go anywhere near them. Don't bring up machetes. Don't bring up pew-pews, anything like that, because you're not helping Sebastian by making anyone feel threatened. You're just not. You're not going to find Sebastian at the campsite. You're not going to find Sebastian at Chris's work, just like you didn't find Summer at Dawn's work. Okay? Lots of questions about this protective order, just like all the cease and desist. Why did they wait so long? I think it's because had they filed a protective order, they would have had an issue keeping faith with them because they're saying they're in danger. But they were doing it. And it's such a tit for tat. A tit for tat. You know, you file a cease and desist on these people, then I'm going to go after your main gal. Now, Tony was 100% wrong on Court TV. He said, Chris lied on the stand about being stalked. His perception of stalked is not Tony's, all right? He said he's never met Andra, never met Bullhorn Betty. Okay, fine, so be it. You don't have to know somebody personally to stalk them. Look at some of these celebrities that have stalking orders against people. They don't know their asses. They don't know them. No way. So he's definitely misinformed there.
Saying she expresses only her opinion and has covered multiple missing persons cases in a similar matter. Griffin testified several times saying she never initiated direct contact with Christopher or had ever met him. In response, the prosecution submitted a 9-minute video as evidence of Griffin's prior YouTube videos. In one of the clips, you can see Griffin as she shares her opinion, saying she indicated Sebastian's mom and dad had the knowledge of how to dispose of a body. She added she believes they may have had something to do with Sebastian's disappearance. It is important to note that law enforcement has not said any foul play was involved in the disappearance of Sebastian. Christopher took the stand next, saying he felt threatened by Griffin.
When your client goes to my job, my house, my campsites, yes, that is stalking.
On that you just testified to, have you ever spoken or communicated with Mr. Proudfoot in any form?
No, sir.
Do you recognize him?
Only by interviews on media as well as alternative media.
Are you talking about your interviews or other interviews?
People. I've never met him in person.
After an almost 4-hour hearing, the judge ruled in favor of Christopher Proudfoot's order of protection. At this time, Katie Proudfoot and Sebastian's step-grandparents have all obtained protection orders against the YouTuber. Now, the YouTuber is set to be back in court on November 20th for 6 counts of a protection order violation. In Gallatin, Caitlin Quisenberry, News 2.
All right. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that? Just me said it. They're always accusing the other of what they're doing. Always. Now let's go to Court TV. Now this is going to take me a little while. If you do not want to go through this, we're live on the second channel. We have just started streaming the Quentin Simon trial. Nani said, I think it's a load of BS. Now, this is recorded from a channel called Hindsight 2002. Now, hold on. I subscribed. Why am I unsubscribed? That's the reason I keep subscribers only on, because so many people say I was subscribed. How did I get unsubscribed?
Rogers' father, Seth Rogers, is with us, and the Rogers family spokesperson, Tony Mathis, as well. Thank you both for coming here. What's your reaction, Seth and Tony, to what happened today or yesterday in court with Bullhorn Betty? And what are your thoughts about Bullhorn Betty and what she's been doing?
Well, Vinny, first off, thank you for having us tonight. Let me be crystal clear about something. That entire family lied under oath.
Okay, now there is an issue. There is an issue with accusations you can't back up. Okay? Opinions are one thing. Opinions are one thing. But when you throw out an actual accusation, they all lied under oath. Sumner County is covering for them. That is an issue.
To get those protective orders, this family has spent more time trying to silence people than they've spent looking for Sebastian. We know for a fact that there's no proof that Sebastian walked out of that home. And it makes you wonder what else they're lying about, Vinny. It also makes you wonder what would happen if Sebastian would have been able to file a protective order against his stepfather.
Seth, your reaction to what happened and what is happening in all of this?
My professional opinion, I would say something along the lines of Chris and Katie did something to my son. They're using Sumner County to cover it up and to hide themselves from the.
Okay. He actually said it right. He said, in my professional opinion. So instead of an actual ironclad accusation, He gives an opinion.
The actual law.
And let me ask you, Seth, and we have no independent information. We know that police are saying there's no suspect. No one's been named as a suspect in any of this. But this seems to be, at least from my perspective, Seth, is it a change in the way you are seeing what has transpired through all this? Are you seeing things differently than you did before?
It's the evidence. I still believe my son is alive. I still believe he's somewhere. But the fact is that he was at their house last. There is no evidence that he ever left the house. And they, as Tony has stated, they have spent more money and time trying to get people to not speak about Sebastian than speaking about Sebastian. Sumner County hasn't come out since April with anything, and Katie won't come out and speak, won't ask for help to find Sebastian. I really have to say that she never loved her son. And on top of that, I have the DCS reports that I've written.
And when he says she never loved her son, and he has the CPS reports, this is horrible. And I hope, I've been saying for months, that these reports never come out. Ever. That needs to be used by law enforcement, in my opinion.
That I have literally took me an attorney to get them. Sebastian deserves a restraining order from those two psychopaths.
Tony, now you've accused them of lying, the Proudfoots, right? So what were they lying about from your perspective? And again, we have no independent information or confirmation that they said anything that was untrue or verification that what they said was true, like either way. But what were they lying about from your perspective, and what's the evidence from your perspective that they are not telling the truth?
Well, they actually were lying, and it was proven in court that they were lying about what they stated in the protective orders, which was that she had had physical contact with them, that she was following, stalking, and harassing them. And even on the stand, Mr. Proudfoot admitted that he had never met her in person.
Well, nobody said that she walked up and shook your hand or bought him lunch or took him to lunch. Stalking does not mean you know the person. It does not mean that you know them personally. We're not talking about a jealous ex-girlfriend here. That is not the law's definition of stalking. So Tony should have looked at that.
So in my opinion, it's a little difficult to be stalking somebody that you've never met in person. And it goes to the many inconsistencies that have been told by Mr. Proudfoot since the very first interview. Not one of his interviews have matched up, Vinny.
And when you say the interviews haven't matched up, you're not talking about, so I just want to make this clear to everyone watching. You're talking about the disappearance of Sebastian, not about Bullhorn Betty in this case.
Yeah, the Bullhorn Betty lies were just another long string in the lies that they've told since the beginning. If you go back and break the interviews down from the very first interview they did all the way from Nancy Grace and beyond before they quit coming out in public, you can see one inconsistency after the next. And the great thing about telling the truth, Benny, is when you're doing that, it's always the same. It doesn't change.
So what's the most material inconsistency that you believe has been stated from Chris and or Katie?
Regarding Sebastian?
Absolutely. That's what I care.
Well, no shit regarding Sebastian. You think we're talking about a lost kitty? Of course they're talking about Sebastian. I think people would not be so hard on Seth if he would do these things alone, as opposed to having Tony with him. Because he overtalks Seth. Seth knows his own life. Seth knows his son. He already said he has the CPS reports. He has threatened for months to put them out. They were going to be on Pascal's. I know a couple other creators. He's saying he's going to put it on their channel. He knows damn sure he can't put it on Betty's. No, no, no. That would be really dangerous. Not saying that it wouldn't be done. Not saying that at all. There's a lot of creepy ass people in this case, though.
About at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Many inconsistencies told about the phone calls, the time of the phone calls, the bed times, what happened after he went to bed. Just, that entire 10 to 12 hour period, many inconsistencies. Also, not rock solid alibis and a lot of time that's unaccounted for. They were also, probably the biggest thing, Benny, is that they told Nancy Grace that they were told by TBI not to take a polygraph, and we found out later from TBI.
Lying to Nancy Grace is not a crime. It's not. Like I said, we have to be fair here. You can lie straight to Nancy Grace's face. It's not a crime. It'll be brought up in court if it turns out Katie and Chris, one or the other, both together did something. It'll be brought up, but it's not a crime.
That is 1,000% not accurate.
That's a big one. That's a big one. Okay, Tony Mathis, Seth Rogers is going to stay with us. We've got more to talk about. We're going to take you inside the courtroom so you can hear some of the testimony from today. Chris Proudfoot on the witness stand. Just want to make it clear, like the First Amendment versus prior restraint of speech is serious business. And the judge made a decision today keeping her away from them. But how far did it go towards?
I can't agree more with what Wist said. It's really hard to take any side but Sebastian's in this case. I believe TBI told Chris he didn't need to take one if he was nowhere in the area. I believe TBI told Seth he didn't need to take one considering he was accounted for. I believe Seth's mother when she said TBI requested Katie to take one because she was the one home with Sebastian when he went missing. We've seen it in other cases. They'll even say, not at this time, but if I need you to, if we need you to, if we come up with something, then we will ask you to, but you don't have to.
What she can say about this case. We'll be back.
Have other people contacted you based off of Miss Griffin's conduct on her social media accounts?
Hundreds.
Okay. How often does that happen?
Daily.
Is it possible for you to avoid the media circus that surrounds Miss Griffin's conduct?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Have people gotten your personal phone number that way?
Yes, sir.
Have they gotten your email?
Yes, sir.
They message you on Facebook?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's Chris Proudfoot. Bullhorn Betty goes online, provides information, and apparently her viewers or followers are sending messages and attempting to contact Chris Proudfoot. So the judge's decision has prevented Bullhorn Betty from contacting the Proudfoots. But what I heard in the decision was, it sounds like she can still talk about them. She just cannot contact them through social media, cannot.
That's really what I gathered from it as well. She can give her opinion. Nobody's stomping on her First Amendment rights. They don't want to talk to her ass. They don't want her to contact them in any way, shape, or form. They don't want her filming by the campsite or outside of their home or harassing an employer. Okay? They don't want that. And sometimes reputations follow. I know people don't like it. They're like, she's not doing anything wrong. She's just keeping Sebastian's name out there. Great. You don't need to go to anyone's work. Now, if they have a landline, it would be public knowledge. To find someone's cell phone number, not so much. Addresses are certainly public knowledge, but I don't want a bunch of people showing up to my house. No, I don't care what question they have. You know, let's reel it back and talk about how law enforcement works. If the FBI had a reason to search Chris's campsite in Mississippi or his work site in Memphis, that is not Sumner County's jurisdiction. They would get a warrant and they would do that. They would get a warrant and they would do that. Hey, Sumner County, if they've got some friends in there that just don't give a shit about Sebastian, so be it. That's horrible. That's horrible. But you're not going to convince me that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation doesn't give a shit about Sebastian or the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Contact them through text or email or any other way. He's got to stay away from them. I understand that decision. Whether you agree or disagree, you know, it's up for debate, but that's the judge's decision. But it seems that she can still talk about them. Now, Chris Proudfoot was asked another important question when it comes to a restraining order, right? To prevent someone from going somewhere or contacting someone, there's got to be a reason. He's asked, why are you afraid of Bullhorn Betty? Take a listen.
What are you afraid of from Andrew Griffin?
What am I directly afraid of, sir? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Well, when you make a video threatening that you want to bring a gun from another state to this state, directly in videos related to me, my wife, my family, that's a threat, plain and simple.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's say I've got some kind of beef with Wist, and I drive my ass up to where she lives. And I do a live video saying I brought my pew-pew from Oklahoma and that I believe Wist is guilty of something with no evidence. How would Wist take that? Again, we have to be fair here. We have to be fair. I don't think a lot of us would take that lightly. Who here would be like, no big deal. This person seems totally stable to me. I'm sure they won't do anything to me. Even though they drove all this way and they're talking about machetes and pew-pews. Who here, and be honest, would slough that off and say, I'm not going to worry about somebody with a pew-pew outside my house?
She also said she was going to bring a machete for the record.
Okay, let's bring back in Seth Rogers, Sebastian's dad, and Tony Mathis. Just a quick clarification, everyone's watching that. Was she threatening to bring a machete to go after the Proudfoots?
Well, Benny, you being one of the better investigative reporters in this.
Answer the question, Tony. Vinny's asking a question. Don't play word salad. Come on. Because we know that Seth is the fan favorite. We got it. We got it. But if somebody was outside of Seth's work or where Seth is searching or outside the hotel room and they said, I have a machete and I drove from this state with my pew-pew, people would be coming unglued. All Tony Tone has to do is answer the question. He knows the answer. We can't have fairness from one side and not the other. That doesn't do Sebastian any good.
Just a quick clarification. Everyone's watching that. Was she threatening to bring a machete to go after the Proudfoots?
Well, Vinny, you being one of the better investigative reporters in this case, you know that if you take a 4 or 5 second clip out of an hour-long video, you can twist that and turn that into anything you want it to be. When she was talking about the things that she was going to need to be walking through these heavily wooded areas, one of the things that she mentioned she would probably need is a machete. But you don't get to see all that because that doesn't fit the narrative. Does that make sense?
Well, then play it all. I didn't hear it. I heard what was clipped on different channels. That's all I heard. I didn't hear anything that I'm going to have to bring a machete to whack down weeds so I can get through and make myself a trail. I never heard that. Where is Petty Kitty going? I love her. What's wrong? I think she's emailing me right now.
On top of that, if she had stated that she was going to bring a machete, don't you think the felon that made the video for the Proudfoots would have actually clipped that in there? And it wasn't clipped in there. And if you notice, the attorney, that shyster that was sitting there representing the Proudfoots and the Bower Sox, when they asked them
Now, again, in fairness, he says that shyster that's defending them, he works for the district attorney's office. Now, if you call him a shyster, you're going to have a problem if criminal charges are brought against Katie, Chris, the Bower Sox, because he works for the DA's office. He's not a private attorney. He's not a private attorney. All he can do is present the evidence, and the judge decides whether to keep this protective order going or not. And the judge has to decide based on law.
they asked Chris the question, have you been contacted? They never asked who contacted them, because nobody that is on Betty's team or my team is actually reaching out to speak to these pathetic excuses for parents.
And Benny, if you actually listen to what was said there in court, the attorney asked the question, have you been contacted by people regarding things that Betty has been saying?
Right.
The people that are contacting Chris are his people. They're not Betty's people. They're contacting Chris saying, this is what Betty said today. This is what she said yesterday. Well, all you've got to do is tell those people, if you don't want to hear it, to quit contacting you. That shouldn't make you afraid of a 5-foot female as a man that has a strong history of being able to deal with females.
Again, this is apples and oranges. See, Tony's not helping the situation, in my humble opinion. Remember, reputations can follow people when you have law enforcement in other states say, listen, this person is a problem for us.
So let's refocus now and get back to what this is really about, which is finding your son, Seth. So Sebastian, I'm sorry. Yeah, to find Sebastian. your relationship with Sebastian's mom seems at this point is completely non-existent. I know early on there was talk about trying to work together, and it seemed like you were trying to come together to do something, but that just doesn't exist. So what is the status of the search for Sebastian? As you sit here tonight, what is going on? Who is doing what, whether it's law enforcement, any private organizations, members of the public, whoever? What is the status of all of that?
We have we have over 50 people that are working on this case. Just in investigators, FBI. I mean, been working with the FBI. It's how we got a reward out there. Sumner County, the people that are in charge of Sumner County refuse to connect the dots. So we have to go beyond Sumner County. My son is somewhere, and me personally, I believe Katie knows.
Vinny, you can tell that we're a little bit more uptight tonight than we usually are, but we've watched the antics. We've watched Chris.
Okay. They are a little more uptight. The only reward that is ironclad, in my opinion, is the one from the FBI. This is what Seth is saying. Betty was targeted because she was working directly with me, and that family in the hills keeps trying to shut Sebastian's voice. Listen, many people have worked with Seth. She's the only one to get a protective order. And I'm not picking on them. I'm not. I think there are creators that have done far worse than filming outside of a campsite, job, or their neighborhood.
Smile and laugh and joke in court when we've got a broken father and Seth that's missing his son. You guys sent a very, very professional, independent camera and photographer to cover this court case, a girl by the name of Athena. We found out after the court case was over that Chris looked at her and winked at her in the middle of the trial.
Was flirting.
We've got a real problem with that when there's a missing child.
He's supposed to be married.
Yeah.
Val's not doing anything anymore.
Okay, in all fairness, TikTok Tony had a shadow of his unit when he was live. Seth pretended like he was choking the bishop during a live. So quit acting all offended that Chris Proudfoot gave a wink to someone. Come on.
So let's talk about this now. There's going to be a lot of people watching right now and say, listen, I want to do something. I want to help. What can they do?
A lot of things, Vinny. They can pray. They can continue to spread awareness. They can put flyers up. They can talk about him in a positive way, regardless of which side of the family they support. Because remember, this is about Sebastian. It's not about Seth. It's not about Tony. It's not about Chris and Katie or any of the crazy grandparents. It's not about any of that. This is about Sebastian. And if you are here for Sebastian.
Now, when he says the crazy grandparents, who are we referring to? Because the Bauer Sox didn't care enough about Sebastian to even bring him to Disney World when they took the other grandkids. If you remember on Haskell's show, when people were bringing up things that Seth's mother had said, it was stated she's crazy. They did not want what she was saying to go forward. And she hasn't said a word since. So who are the crazy grandparents?
Talk about him in a positive way, regardless of which side of the family they support. Because remember, this is about Sebastian. It's not about Seth. It's not about Tony. It's not about Chris and Katie or any of the crazy grandparents. It's not about any of that. This is about Sebastian. And if you are here for Sebastian, your focus should be Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. That's it. nothing else.
Absolutely.
He's the one missing. Unfortunately, the judge wanted to sit there and offer his condolences for our loss. My son is missing. I understand that that judge's child passed away, and that made him emotional in this case. Judgment from the judge should have been blind to begin with. He was emotional, and I'm pretty sure my son is lost. He is alive. He is missing. All right, that judge buried their child.
Seth Rogers,
Sebastian is alive.
we're out of time for tonight, but I appreciate it, and we'll stay in contact. Seth Rogers, Tony Mathis.
You know, good for Seth saying that. Don't say I'm sorry for your loss when they believe, he believes his son is still alive. Now, if you don't mind, take a second and subscribe to our second channel, because I'm going to I'm going to hop over there, and we're going to discuss at length for some time the trial of Leilani Simon. Please, guys, please come over and see us. I don't know what's going on with my microphone, but thank you so much, mods. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much for your unbiased opinions and just for being the coolest people on these nasty YouTube streets. I'll see you in about 30 seconds.